Hi, my name is Andrea, and I'd like to tell you how costly, literally and figuratively, injustice and lack of honesty can be. But first of all, I have to tell you something about my family. A long time ago, my great-grandfather built an enormous 3-story house, which was supposed to be a family nest, just like an aristocratic estate in the South. My great-grandfather managed to keep his riches during the Great Depression, so my grandfather, and later on my father, inherited both the house and the traditions. I hope that when the time comes, I will live here with my own family. The house is really huge, and so is the garden surrounding it, and my father hires people to help us with all of this. The gardener who creates masterpieces from ordinary plants, the cook who makes dinners and leaves food for the next day in the fridge, and the housekeeper. Our current housekeeper's name is Julia. Somebody has to pay all these bills, so my dad spends almost all of his time in the office, coming home late for dinner and sometimes not even coming home at all. I miss him very much, but I understand why this happens. My mom does not have to go to work, but this in no way means that I get to see her more often. Even though our town is small, we have many activities that my mom always takes part in. And if there's some kind of family drama, my mom will always be in the middle, calming, listening, and encouraging. All the housewives in our town share their secrets with her, and no contest like the most beautiful rose in town would dare be held without her. So I often stay home with just Julia, who's completely silent. But I seldom feel lonely. My huge house is not as empty as you might think, and it's never looked depressing to me. It has a complicated and well-thought-out interior, full of beautiful things. Vases, jewel caskets, ashtrays, though my father doesn't smoke, different figurines, stones, and other souvenirs collected by the 3 generations of my family. And from very early childhood, I've liked to sort them out. Nobody else's house has so many amazing and sometimes very expensive things, and I always felt proud to experience such an out-of-the-ordinary way of life in my home. That's why I noticed immediately when the letter opener and the ivory owl statuette disappeared from the table in the library. Well, the library is very large, so these things could easily have fallen on the floor and gotten lost during cleaning, so I just called the housekeeper and asked her to look for them during her next cleaning. For some reason, Julia looked worried and nervous, as if I ordered her to find the souvenirs immediately. But she is quite an emotional person, so I decided not to correct her and returned to what I was doing. But the story has only just begun. A week later, an antique forged ashtray disappeared from the living room. It was strange. I looked under the tea tables and sofas, kneeling on the floor in my dress, but could not find it. Then I remembered the souvenirs from the library and went to see if they were found. No. Okay, these things were really small and could have rolled somewhere under the shelves, but the ashtray was really big and heavy and couldn't just be smashed away. So where did it go? Was it stolen? My parents did not seem to notice the losses, and I decided not to upset them and tried to figure out who had come into our home lately. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that no one new had visited us. Maybe somebody from the house staff. The gardener never enters the big house. The cook only works in the evenings and seldom leaves the kitchen. So that just leaves Julia. She lives in the house, she has her own room, and also she has access to every room. So I started my own investigation. Like Sherlock Holmes, I followed Julia in disguise. I examined every room before and after cleaning, trying to catch her in the act when she stole something again. I was contemplating telling everything to my parents, but, I did not want to look reactive or intolerant by blaming Julia without any proof. But after that, a really valuable thing disappeared. A passe part-out with a postcard signed for my great-grandfather by one of the Golden Age Hollywood stars. It was a family relic, and it just vanished. It was too much. So, when we all had a family dinner and Julia came to help with the dishes, I told my parents everything. My father was devastated. My mother kept silent, and Julia was terrified. Of course, my dad asked for some explanations, but she only shook her head and repeated that she did not take anything. My father announced that she was fired, and Julia ran out in tears. For almost half an hour, my father was loudly trying to figure out if it was really Julia's fault. Finally, he came to the conclusion that she was the only person who could steal the valuables and decided to call the police. And all of a sudden, my mother broke her silence and said that Julia was innocent. It was her who was throwing away this old garbage, trashing them one by one. In less than a minute, she started yelling that she was fed up with living in my father's family museum, which costs a fortune to keep, and that she was suffocating in all this junk. And even though I was very curious to find out what my father would say to her when he returned to life from being a speechless statue, I rushed to Julia's room in order to ask for her forgiveness from my whole family. When I was descending the stairs in a hurry, I was thinking about the danger of not speaking up when you have problems, and also that if you suspect somebody of doing inappropriate things, you still should not jump to quick conclusions. Have you ever suspected somebody of committing a crime? What did you do in this case? Share your stories in the comments, and do not forget to share this story with your friends.